For as long as anyone can remember, Bradley had been the kind of entertainer who could brighten an entire room just by stepping into it. The kind of man who carried laughter in his pockets like spare change, handing it out to anyone who needed it. Viewers saw the polished charm, the quick wit, the effortless ability to turn even the simplest moment into a memory worth keeping. But behind all that sparkle lived a man who valued his family far more than any spotlight. A man whose heart beat a little steadier whenever his wife Donna smiled at him, and whose world always felt warmer with his son Barney by his side. What the public never imagined was that this cheerful, unstoppable television favorite was quietly facing a chapter that would test that warmth, that love, and that unshakable bond holding his family close. It began quietly, almost unnoticeably, the way some of life's biggest challenges do. A few weeks of discomfort, a few days of shrugging things off. Bradley was the type who didn't like to make a fuss, especially not about himself. He was the man who brushed off worry with a laugh, who insisted he was fine, absolutely fine, even when Donna gave him that look, the one that could see through every brave face he ever attempted. Donna Derby, his wife of more than 25 years, had always been the calm at the center of the storm. Their relationship was the kind of love that didn't need grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It lived in the small things. The way she squeezed his hand before he walked on stage. The way he always made her tea exactly the way she liked it. The familiar way they could finish each other's sentences without even trying. But even through the peace of their home, something felt off. Something quiet, but heavy. And when Bradley finally agreed to slow down long enough to be checked, really checked, the news that came back was heavier than any of them expected. Doctors explained that he needed treatment, real treatment, the kind that requires time, patience, and the willingness to let go of work, even if just for a while. It wasn't easy. For a man who'd spent his whole life running from studio to studio, giving the world something to smile about. Slowing down felt unnatural. It felt like stepping off a moving train while everyone else kept riding. But this time, he didn't fight it. He couldn't. Not when Donna's eyes shimmered with worry she tried so hard to hide. Not when Barney put an arm around him and promised, in that steady, heartfelt way only a son could, that they would get through this together. Barney Walsh, known for his adventures and easygoing charm, was struggling more than he let on. The father-son duo had shared so many unforgettable moments, traveling the world side by side, turning chaos into comedy, turning challenges into memories. And for Barney, the idea of seeing his father vulnerable felt unfamiliar and frightening. It chipped at the edges of the confidence he carried so naturally. But even in fear, the Walsh family did what they always had. They leaned on each other. They laughed where they could. They created pockets of joy that made the heavy days feel lighter. Donna filled the house with music. Barney insisted on cooking, badly at first, but with enough enthusiasm to make every burnt attempt hilarious. Bradley, even during his worst days, still managed to crack a joke that made both of them roll their eyes and smile, because nothing in the world could keep that man from trying to lift the mood. And while the world outside continued spinning with noise, deadlines, and the constant pressure of the entertainment industry, the Walsh home became a sanctuary, full of warmth, tea mugs left half-finished on the counter, movie nights that always ended with Donna falling asleep on Bradley's shoulder, and long conversations about life, dreams, and everything they still hoped to do together. When word eventually reached fans that Bradley was stepping back from public life for a while, the outpouring of love was overwhelming. Social media lit up with messages, artwork, jokes, and heartfelt words from people who felt like Bradley had been part of their families for years. Some shared stories of how he'd helped them through tough times without ever knowing it. Others wrote about how watching him brought joy to their loneliest days. But what touched Bradley most wasn't the volume of messages. It was their sincerity. It reminded him that laughter wasn't just noise. It was connection. It was healing. It was something he had given freely for decades. And now, in this unexpected chapter of life, people were giving it back to him. And though he didn't say it publicly, privately he was deeply moved. The man who usually brushed off praise suddenly found himself sitting quietly, scrolling through messages, humbled by how much kindness existed in the world. The next few months were not easy. There were days when Bradley felt tired before the morning even began. Days when Donna had to remind him, in that gentle, affectionate way she always had, that rest wasn't weakness, and that healing wasn't something to rush. There were days when Barney pushed aside his own schedule to sit beside his father, cracking jokes, sharing stories, or simply being present when the silence felt heavy. But there were also good days. Days filled with laughter so loud the neighbors probably heard it. Days when Bradley felt strong enough to tease Donna about her cooking, or challenge Barney to a board game he had every intention of winning. Days when hope took up more space than fear. Through every moment, love remained the compass guiding each step. Donna remained the steady heart of the home, never letting her worry overshadow the strength she knew her husband carried. Barney remained the bright spark, reminding his dad daily that even on tough journeys, adventure still existed, just in a different form. And Bradley? Well, he remained Bradley, a man who could make a doctor laugh in the middle of a serious appointment, a man who cracked jokes during treatment sessions, a man who never once stopped believing in brighter days even when the clouds seemed heavy. And as the months went on, the weight of the diagnosis became less of a shadow and more of a reminder to slow down, to appreciate the quiet moments, to cherish the people who show up with unwavering love. And though the path ahead was still uncertain, the Walsh family walked it together, hand in hand, heart to heart, with humor, resilience, and a love story written not in grand gestures, but in everyday devotion. Because sometimes life reminds us that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, in a partner's steady presence, in a child's warm support, in the laughter shared at the end of a long day. And for Bradley, Donna, and Barney, that whisper was enough to keep moving forward.